Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast, episode 72. Today I'm going to do a solo episode and discuss about unleashing the power within virtually. And for those of you who are Tony Robbins fans, you will understand immediately what unleash the power within means. For those of you who are not yet, I'm going to explain what's going on here and what I'm going to talk about. So, the Unleash the Power Within is a 4-day event. It's a signature event that Tony Robbins does. And today I'm going to discuss my lessons and learnings from the crewing experience I had the previous weekend, the 4 days leading to the weekend, of Unleash the Power Within, which was done virtually. So it was done online compared to how it used to be in the past, which was an in-person event. So I'm going to go through all that and discuss with you my lessons, my learnings from this outstanding experience. Before I do that, I would like to give some background, some context. So the first time that I attended Unleash the Power Within was back in 2017, and life has never been the same since. It is, as I say, if you have listened to my story, you might have heard me talking about a massive breakthrough that I had in April 2017, when I realized very clearly a limiting belief that I had all my life that was holding me back. And that limiting belief was that people are not interested in what I had to say. So at that event in 2017, I realized very clearly that this was not my character, this was not who I was. Rather than that, it was just a voice at the back of my head that was directing really my behaviors. To cut a long story short, and this because this is not what I want to talk about today. So to cut a long story short, on that day I realized and I changed very much. And then I started doing public speaking, podcasting, and all those things which were the complete opposite of the introvert and shy, closed person that I was until then. In 2019, I decided to revisit the event and go again. For two reasons, really. The first reason was because growth and learning are two of my highest values in life. So I wanted to keep on growing, keep on learning. However, I didn't want to go again as a participant. I want to take it to the next level and also to give back, to volunteer, to contribute, and that's why I joined as a crew member. I wanted to facilitate to the participants, to the over 10,000 of people who have come to the event, and I wanted to facilitate in them the same kind of transformational experience that I had in 2017. So that was an outstanding experience for me, and I achieved the goals of I had set to myself at that time when I crewed about growing and about contributing, and even more than that, because I had the opportunity to connect with some incredible people, crew members from all around the world, very different people, but all of them sharing the same values, the same desire to contribute and to grow and to improve as people. And it was an extremely fulfilling experience. So when I crewed last year in 2019, I had decided straight away that I would love to do that again. So I had set my intention to crew on in 2020, and the UPW event would have happened in Birmingham in May of 2020. And of course, then COVID happened and all in-person events were banned. So there was a period of confusion, a period of uncertainty of what's going to happen with the live events, etc. Initially, the event was postponed for October, in the hope, I suppose, that things would have settled down by then. But it was clear on the following months that COVID was not something that would go away, or maybe the way that the governments are handling COVID would not go away anytime soon. So after some back and forth, Tony Robbins actually decided to take his events to a virtual level and do them over the internet. When I first heard about that, I thought, wow, this is a very daring task. I mean, if you have ever been to the UPW, or even if you haven't been, you can imagine what kind of electric atmosphere 10,000+ people can create. So the vibration there is something that is very difficult to describe in words. You have to experience it to see what is going on. But my point is that trying to recreate that kind of atmosphere, that kind of vibration, and bring that online, virtually, through people's inside people's living rooms, it seemed to be a very ambitious goal. And nonetheless, I decided to crew on the virtual event and just experience how it would be. And that brings me to today, a few days after the end of the UPW, the virtual UPW, which happened a few days ago. And my experience, and I'm going to discuss that in a little bit more detail today. The first thing that I will say is, wow. I mean, I don't know how Tony Robbins managed to do it, but the vibe of the event was there. And it was there inside my home, inside my living room. All the energy, all the inspiration, all the breakthroughs, all the transformation, somehow he managed to deliver all those through a virtual environment. And my crewing experience as a result of this was outstanding. And that's why, while it's still fresh in my mind, I wanted to discuss this with you on this episode. So some things, the first thing that really I want to talk about are the differences. The obvious difference, of course, is that there are no 10 or 12,000 people around you. So you are at home, and that is, the obvious difference. The second difference was something, again, that you can't do at home, and it is a trademark, shall we say, of the UPW experience, where at the first night of the event, people walk over hot coals, the so-called firewalk. So obviously this couldn't happen at people's homes without the proper preparations and everything. So, but instead, Tony Robbins offers a different challenge, shall we say, or a different breakthrough, which is breaking a board of wood, like a karate chop, breaking a piece of wood on which wood you have written down a limiting belief, something that you want to break through to the other side, and then on the other side of the wood you write down what you're breaking through towards. So it's a lovely experience. It's not quite as intense as walking 4 or 5 meters across hot coals, but still it gives a deep sense of achievement and feeling that you have managed to break through some limitations, because for most people who are not into martial arts anyway, the thought that they can break a piece of wood with their hand is something that they probably think that they can't. So by breaking through a limiting belief, a fear maybe, that is a very empowering experience. And the last big difference, and that was from me as a crew member, from my crew member's point of view, was that the help that I could offer the participants and my interaction with the participants of the event was done mainly through a chat box behind the keyboard, behind the screen. So there was no direct one-to-one speaking with them, even though there were a few opportunities for conversation, like in breakout rooms, or if there were at some point some shifts that the crew members had in the help desk, so they had the opportunity to go on a one-to-one Zoom call with the participants. But that was really the exception. The vast majority of the interaction and the help happened mainly through a chat box, and that was different, shall we say, different. And I will have to say that when you are trying to help someone, you rely very much on your communication skills. And when we say communication skills, maybe you know, or maybe you've heard before what I'm about to say, that the majority of the communication skills are not actually the language, the words that you say. The majority are mainly the physiology, your body language. And the second most important thing in communication is the tonality, so the way that your voice sounds. So when you try to help and influence someone through a chat box, through a keyboard, both the tonality and the physiology are immediately gone away. So you have to really be relying on the words that you choose, and that is a big challenge. I'm happy to say that initially when I started doing that, initially I thought, oh my God, how am I going to actually manage to help someone and support them just by typing on a chat? But I'm happy to say that I adapted. I found the resourcefulness to use the language in a certain way, or use strategically some emojis to convey the kind of tonality maybe or that I wanted to share. So it was in a way it was quite successful, taking into considerations of the limitations that I said before. So these were the main differences really between a virtual event and the main event. And the next thing I wanted to discuss is a little bit for those of you who haven't been to the UPW before. It is 4 days, and there are 4 fully packed days. I mean, they start at 9 o'clock in the morning or a bit earlier depending on the day, and they end, depending on the day, again 10 or 11 at night. And the breaks are very few, if there are any breaks. So it's a very immersive experience. So it's basically 4 full days of transformation, really. The first day is the breakthrough day, when you realize some elements of the mindset and the fears and some things like that. And the day ends with the board breaking at the virtual event or the firewalk in the normal in-person event. The second day is the day that Tony Robbins head trainer Joseph McClendon comes on stage, who is an incredible person. I mean, I can't think of any other person that could step in the shoes of Tony Robbins and deliver the content like he does. And the funny thing, if you've never seen him or listened to him, he is, in terms of appearance, shall we say, the complete opposite of Tony Robbins. I will leave it to that. Anyway, the second day is the momentum day, where you take the things that you've learned on the first day and enhance them and build on them. And basically this second day is the preparation for the third day, which is the transformation day. The third day of UPW is where the real magic happens. It is the day that I told you earlier at the beginning of the podcast that my life changed when I had that experience in 2017. It's if you haven't heard of it, it's called the Dickens process. For those of you who are familiar with the UPW, the Dickens process needs no introduction. It is a very, very intense and powerful process that lasts probably around 5 hours on Saturday, the third day. It's very long, very absorbing, quite uncomfortable because it requires you to go deep into negative emotional states and go really deep on them and intentionally, so that eventually you can break out from them. But this process has so much power that can really transform you. It has done for me, it has done for millions of people that have attended the UPW over the years, and I had heard lots of stories from various different people. And I'm going to discuss a little bit about the Dickens process later on. And the fourth day is the day of vitality, where really the topic of health, energy, vitality, wellness, food, breathing, all these things that are completely essential to be able to live an extraordinary life. There is so much information. Some of it is you have to have an open mind and look into it, because it goes against some of the, shall we say, conventional beliefs that many people have adopted over their lifetime, which are not necessarily true, of course, but we have the feeling that we have the tendency, when we learn something and that something is reinforced to us over the years, over and over again, we tend to believe it. And then there is something called the confirmation bias, where you tend to find more information that reinforces that belief, and any information that goes against that belief that you have, you tend to ridicule it or think that this is completely wrong. And there are so many things. The only example that I will mention, because it just came to my mind now, is milk. So we have been conditioned for years, for decades, and previous generations as well, that cow's milk is exactly what the human body needs to grow and have strong bones. And because this belief is so much ingrained in us, hardly ever do people take some time and question it. Is this really truth? So I'm not going to go into this topic. I just mentioned that as an example. It's up to anyone to do their own research and find out whether cow's milk is something that is valuable and essential for growing a healthy human being or not. So I'll leave that to you, or you can come to the UPW next time and check out the information. So that was a brief overview of what's going on at the event. There is something that I think is very important in anything that we do in our lives. And I'm digressing a little bit now, but I'm going to talk about setting intentions. So before you do something, anything, and especially something very major like going to a 4-day event, but even with smaller things, it's very important to set your intentions. So what is it that you want to get from that? What is it that you want to achieve? So bringing this to what I was saying earlier, I had set personally 3 intentions for myself as a member of the crew for this virtual event. And I'm going to share these 3 intentions with you because I think it is really a matter of continuing to be authentic and vulnerable. So I'm not going to say, I had set 3 intentions and not going to tell you which ones they were. I think it is important as your host in this podcast to share with you exactly what I had intended to do, because I think that will give you a better understanding of who I am as a person. So the first intention that I had set was to serve the participants of the event to the best of my abilities, to do everything I could to help them, to support them, to be the person that will facilitate their any issues, any questions that they had, to crew, to serve, to support all these things, which is really the essence of crewing an event like that. And this intention has been fulfilled 100%, and I'm delighted to have been able to serve and help many people, even though it was most of the time through a chat box, as I was saying earlier. The second intention that I had set was to connect with some extraordinary people who were also either members of the crew or members generally of the Tony Robbins environment, like trainers, senior leaders, some really inspirational, exceptional people. And that was, I had set that intention really because when I went last year in 2019 to the event, that was the fact that I met and connected with these people was my biggest takeaway really from the whole event. And I mentioned that earlier on, the networking opportunities, people from all around the world that are people that share the same values of growth and contribution, peers that push you towards growth by setting a high standard and setting a very high inspiration to follow, where this was an incredible goal that I achieved, to be able to connect with those people. So it was my intention for this event to carry on and connect with even more people like that. Obviously, because I was at home and I was behind a computer, that really limits the interaction that you can have. So all these, I remember fondly the high fives, the hugs, the smiles that we had in the crew room, which obviously this was not the same thing this time, but still I did manage to fulfill that intention I had, and I connected with 5 or 6 exceptional people who we shared the event and the team that we were allocated with. So that was the second intention that I had set. And the third intention, and a very, very, very important one, and I'm going to go back into the Dickens process that I was talking about earlier, was to actually participate in the Dickens process and annihilate a limiting belief myself. So even though I was crewing, I asked my trainer, who was the leader of the team we were in, whether I could give myself the gift of participating in the Dickens process rather than crewing it. And he was very happy to accommodate that, because that is the thing. When you are among these people, it's they can all understand that what is best for everyone at any particular time. So I served for 3.5 days, and half of the day I took that time for myself, and as a participant I just turned the chat off and I immersed myself into the Dickens process, which it's such a big topic. Maybe at some point I'm going to do an episode just on the Dickens process, really, because I'm thinking I could start talking about this right now, but it's going to the level of detail that I would like to go into is quite a lot. It is a very transformational process. For me, it has, as I said in the beginning, it was my breakthrough, my light bulb moment back in 2017. It completely changed my life by radically eliminating a major limiting belief that I had about my perception of how people hear what I have to say. And I'm going to record another episode and talk about the Dickens process, because I really think that I haven't seen anything more powerful from my knowledge and experience so far. I haven't seen any more powerful process that can completely transform your mindset, and as a result of that, your decisions, your emotions, your actions, and your results in life in just a few hours. So these were, concluding with that, these were my intentions for the event, and I was delighted and over the moon, really, to have been able to fulfill all these intentions. And there were so many things I learned from the whole crewing experience. Really, so many things. There were two, I'm going to go very briefly and mention a few of them here. One was a meditation that we did on the first day. It's called Heart Math, and it is about connecting the heart with the brain, the frequencies of the heart and the brain. And it's a unique, beautiful, tranquil meditation or process that brings to surface some deep, empowering truths that your heart tells you. And that was for me an amazing experience, as is always has been at UPW, when you realize beyond any doubt at all what it is that your heart is telling you. It's such a beautiful experience. There was another big topic that Tony Robbins talked about. I think it was at the end of day 1 or day 2, and it was about relationships, and especially the intimate romantic relationship. And there were so many things I got from that, but I will share with you one phrase that he said that I think if we could embrace that phrase and live that phrase, it would completely transform our relationships and our life, really. So he said that a relationship an intimate relationship is a place that you go to give, not to get. I leave that to sink in for a moment. An intimate relationship is a place you go to give and not to get. Yeah, big realization for me. And another learning, a big learning, I've already really discussed it a little bit. It was the Dickens process and how powerful the process is. And I promise I'm going to do another episode in a few weeks' time and discuss the process in detail. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about it, I'm going to link in the show notes. I had written a blog post back in 2017 when I did the first UPW about the Dickens process. So I'm going to link it in the show notes. You can have a read about it. For me, that was one of the biggest milestone moments in my life, because it changed me from an introvert person, the person who was very uncomfortable to speak with people who he didn't know, and very concerned that people will not be interested in whatever comes out of my mouth. That day, that process in 2017 changed me, I will dare to say instantly. Obviously, it took a few weeks and months for the actions and the results to catch up with what was going on in my mind, but it changed me immediately into a person that who had the confidence to speak his voice out and share what was it that he wanted to say. And all my transformation the last 4 years, 3-4 years now, was really accelerated by that milestone moment. So yeah, I could as you can tell, I could talk about the Dickens process for a long. That's why I'm going to leave it now and come back to it after a few weeks with another episode. So this was really some of the things that I wanted to cover today, talking about the virtual Unleash the Power Within, the Tony Robbins event that I had the real pleasure and the delight and the privilege to crew. What I am going to say is that if what I have said during this episode has intrigued you, please check out Tony Robbins UPW. It is 4 days that have the potential to completely change and transform your life if you allow the experience to do that. So it's extremely powerful. Check it out. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you to find it easily. The next UK or the next European event is in June 2021. But if you are itching to go after what you've heard, and you don't mind changing your time zone virtually, there are other events that happen before then, but they are either on USA time zone or different time zones. So it's entirely up to you. Of course, maybe you're listening to this podcast being at the United States. I just made an assumption now, which I will publicly declare my blunder, that I made an assumption that you are listening from the UK where I am, which is it's a blunder. I apologize. I know that my second biggest audience is in the United States, so for you guys there is a UPW in November and another one in February. Check it out. The one in February I am going to crew again, so who knows, maybe I will be able to meet you there and serve you. So thank you very much for listening to this different episode. Next week I will come back with an exceptional interview of a lady who I met, and she's going to blow your mind. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that you found this episode useful, valuable, intriguing, if not anything else. And unleash the power within, my friends. Stand out, don't fit in. Thank you for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe and review Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this podcast with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to gain access to exclusive content while supporting this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpad. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, or if you have any questions, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.